I invite Dr. Rachna Srivastava to share her thoughts on J. Krishnamurti and his life on Adyadi. Dr. Rachna ji.
Thank you, Shikharji. Good evening to all of you, all brothers and sisters who have joined on this day when we have gathered here to remember three great personalities who have contributed much to Theosophy: Colonel Olcott, C.W. Leadbeater, and of course, J. Krishnamurti. I would like to thank Pradeep Mahapatra ji also, because he gave me an opportunity to read about J. Krishnamurti. I had been putting this off for a very long time because as I am associated with the Theosophical Society and VKM since 1988, my focus was more on Theosophy and what Annie Besant had said, or how Annie Besant had contributed to national movement or education of girls. And I just kept putting off for later studies J. Krishnamurti. But this gave me an opportunity. And Krishnamurti ji and Theosophy, how they are related to each other. In fact, we all know that Krishnamurti ji is fondly called Krishna ji, and Dr. Annie Besant had adopted J. Krishnamurti and his brother Nityanand ji when they were children, and she and C.W. Leadbeater looked after these two children, and Krishna ji was reared to become the next world teacher. And an order of the Rising Star of the East was also established for that very purpose. But then we also usually believe that Krishna ji parted ways with Dr. Annie Besant. At VKM also, we usually say that college was established in 1913, but then J. Krishnamurti took the college away, and it was established at Rajghat with Krishnamurti Foundation, and Rohit Mehta ji established the present VKM here with Theosophical Society Foundation. The college is run by Theosophical Society Indian section. So the usual assumption is this, and it is thought that although Krishna ji was educated to become world teacher, but then by 1929 he rebelled and he parted ways because he had his own beliefs, and he thought that truth is pathless. He talked of free mind, unconditioned mind. When there are no preconceived notions, only then we can see the truth. We can achieve the goals which have actually been established, which have been given by, which have been identified by Theosophical Society, which have been identified by Madame Blavatsky or Dr. Annie Besant. So when I was reading about J. Krishnamurti ji, I realized that what he said, what he communicated to the humankind throughout his life was not much different to what HPB and Dr. Annie Besant had believed in. And if we look at it from another perspective, then we can see that Krishna ji actually did what he was touted to be, what he was supposed to be doing, what Dr. Annie Besant wanted him to do. He became a word teacher. He became a free mind because he was given that kind of education by Dr. Annie Besant. You must have read, you must have heard that once when Krishna ji was speaking about Dr. Besant after her death, he said that Dr. Besant never told him to do this or don't do that. That means that a freedom to evolve, was given to him. And if that freedom was there, Krishnaji used that freedom. Krishnaji made use of that freedom to evolve as an individual, to have an individual voice, to have an independent voice, have an independent mind, which is unconditioned, which is free of all preconceived notions. So in my presentation, my address, I would like to focus on these two aspects as to what are the objectives of Theosophy as identified by Dr. Besant and HPB regarding truth, universal brotherhood, about the welfare of the humankind, about freedom of mind, and also about not dogmatizing Theosophy. And then side by side, I would like to tell you that how Krishnaji walked the same path. So if anybody says that he parted ways from Theosophy, although he was not a member of Theosophical Society, yet we see that what he did throughout his life was not much different to what Annie Besant or what HPB wanted him to do. So Dr. Besant and Krishnaji, if I am permitted to call him that, because after reading about him, after going through so many books, there was one book by Professor P. Krishna also, and in it he has mentioned that Krishnaji was quite humorous also, and when he was like not giving some lecture or talk, or somebody had not come to seek some advice from him, then he would tell jokes also. And they were pretty nice political jokes. And when I was reading them, I could see another part of another aspect of his personality. And he became, in fact, closer to me, because these were all political jokes. That was around 70, 75. And these jokes were about India and Russia relations or communist governments and all. So Krishnaji and Dr. Annie Besant were two great seekers of truth. We all agree on that. They were both inspired and influenced by theosophical ideals, which states that truth is the highest religion. And their life was so dedicated to the quest for truth. And for that, they were prepared to sacrifice anything and everything. Don't you see that? Dr. Annie Besant, even before she joined the Theosophical Society, she stood for truth. And for that, she sacrificed her family. She had to go through a lot because of standing for truth. The same we can say about Krishnaji, that when he stood for truth, he was condemned also, if I can say so, at that time, because I was reading Professor P. Krishna's book on Krishnaji, and there were conversation between Radhaji and P. Krishnaji, and I could see that at that time many theosophists were there who were very much against Krishnamurtiji, because he had parted ways, because he had dismantled the order, because he had declared that he was not to become the word teacher. So this standing for truth was there both in Dr. Annie Besant and Krishnamurtiji. So this quality we can see in both of them. Then Theosophical Society was created with the motto that truth is the highest religion. And since Theosophy in its true meaning is not a new religion, but what it is the essence of all religions. It is wisdom religion. This demands that we come in contact with eternal truth, which is beyond all religions, which is beyond all forms. Now, if that is the essence of Theosophy, is that not what Krishnamurtiji is asking us to do all the time? He is saying you must understand yourself, break through your conditioning. Only then you will have a true perception, without which you cannot come upon the truth. So there isn't any division between what Theosophy in its essence is asking us to do and what Krishna ji is advocating as necessary for us to do. In fact, preconceived notions about truth prevent one from being free in mind. And if we are not free in mind, then our outlook towards life would not be fulfilling. We need to be completely free to listen to somebody. If we have already some preconceived notions, then we do not listen to the person. We listen to what we want to hear. If we have preconceived notions, then illusions arise and beliefs become very strong. And then it becomes difficult for us to get the truth, to see the truth, and to fulfill our life. Many people also think that Krishnamurti ji denied the existence of the masters, and this had created a rift between him and Dr. Annie Besant, and this also led her to feel disappointed in him. But whatever I read, I could see that this is a misunderstanding. What Krishna ji objected to is the belief of convenience, of dependence on any outside agency for help. Because he believed that we must start the journey inside. So seeking help from outside, he was against that. We must also remember that Krishna ji did not deny God. He denied all the concepts that people accept about God. He did not deny the sacred. He denied what people consider to be sacred. There is a difference. What is sacred and what people consider to be sacred. He did not deny love, but he denied all the usual concepts about love. He did not deny religious mind. He denied all concepts and beliefs about what is religious. To him, something imagined and fashioned by thought has little value, because what it did, it blocked inquiry and therefore the perception of the deeper truth. He posited the truth as the unknown and advocated an approach to it through the denial of the false. Dr. Annie Besant was also not of much different view. She also believed and said that the Theosophical Society is intended to be a living body and not a fossil. And a living body grows and develops. It adapts itself to new conditions. If it doesn't do that, it decays. One can see the seeds of Krishna ji's later teachings to the humankind in the above statement of Dr. Annie Besant, when he said that Theosophical Society is intended to be a living body and not a fossil. Of course, Krishna ji did not accept these statements from her or from anyone else without rediscovering the truth, without experiencing the truth for himself. His whole teaching emphasizes the distinction between the knowledge of the truth and the actual perception of it. Dr. Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater wanted him to function as a word teacher, giving a new interpretation to religion for the age of reason. And this is precisely what he did all through his life. We all know that TS was founded with three main objects, and one of which was universal brotherhood. And one of the other objects was investigation of powers, which is latent in human beings, or the creation of scientific temper, promotion of scientific temper in human beings. Frequently, these latent powers are considered or interpreted as psychic in nature. Krishnaji, though endowed with these powers, rejected the desire to place any focus on them because he saw them as yet another binding personal distraction from a genuine understanding of truth. He gave two very important words, phrases we can say, choiceless awareness and paying full attention. Choiceless awareness. If we do not have any preconceived notion, only then we can be truly awakened. And then paying full attention. I really appreciate this phrase, because with this simple act of paying full attention and being perceptive, what Krishnaji is making us to do, he is making us reflect on the very exclusive properties of these actions, which can cause human beings to seriously transform themselves and attain freedom. In fact, the act of listening with full attention has a very positive role. It erases bad memories, bad habits, and all the accumulated traditions. When we listen to someone, as we have already seen, that we listen to ourselves. But paying full attention, listening with full attention helps the elimination of conditioning. And Krishnaji also says that we must adopt a different way of life for ourselves, because the other is also ourself. This is the oneness of life or brotherhood, about which Theosophical Society also talks about. After 1925, we can see that a more individual note began to sound through Krishnaji's discourses, and soon after he had dissolved the Order of the Star, and he held that those who sought truth could not reach it through any organization, because organizations precondition you and then you do not get the right conception of truth. He spoke of reality as pathless, and this caused some discomfort, as we have already talked about. In 1929, he moved away from Theosophy and dismantled the idea of becoming word teacher, because he had his own view of religion, which was not bound by any community or conservatism. His idea of education was to break humanity from all restrictions. The restrictions which divide humanity in the name of caste, community, and nationality, etc. This is the central core around which Krishnaji's lifetime of teaching revolves. It was a movement from unreal to real. He focused on unconditional freedom. So, if we look into that, we read Krishnaji through P. Krishna, then what we can see that Krishnaji rebelled against encrustation, against treating Theosophy not as an inquiry, but as some new form of belief. And if we further see, because I can see that Shikharji has switched on his video, that is giving me a signal, but you had taken a lot of my time. So give me 5 more minutes and I will conclude. So when we see what HPB had said, Madam Blavatsky had said, she made it clear that the purpose of society was to bring back, especially to the Western world, the possibility of a spiritual life. Or she was talking about the humanity. She was talking about the service of humanity through Theosophical Society. And this is what J. Krishnamurti was also talking about when he says that we are nobody should be like teacher and should be imposing some dogmas, some authority on other people. Oneself is teacher and pupil. And this is why we see that he perhaps refused to become a word teacher. So when we look at Krishnaji, we see that he never claimed authority in his spiritual matters. In fact, he said that I'm not establishing authority of myself, and all authority is evil. And so let me conclude. Krishnaji's entire life was dedicated to point out where we were and how it is creating the world in which we live. Krishnaji talked about a change that needs to take place in us. He is not concerned with changing the world by working externally. And we can see his influence on the members of Theosophical Society also, at least partly. And although he was not a member of the TS, he changed the focus of attention for many members of TS from received authority to individual experience, something which Dr. Besant had herself repeatedly attempted to do, as had Colonel Olcott before her, but which Krishnaji succeeded to do with a new force. So I don't see much deviation in Krishnaji's thoughts from Theosophy. Maybe I had started my study with this preconceived notion that he took inspiration from Theosophy, and then he found his own way to communicate these messages which were identified by HPB and Dr. A.D. Besant to the world. This is what Theosophy is, letting everyone think for oneself, giving the freedom to make choices, choiceless awareness. So with these words, I end my talk, because in 15 minutes, one cannot talk about these serious subjects. There are so many things to say. Yet, thanks Shikharji, and thanks to everyone for listening